Welcome to St. James. For those who know me and those who don't, my name is Carta, and I've been a member of St. James for about 30 years. My ex-wife, kids, and I had a home built in Carta County and moved here in 1986. I was a Roman Catholic and initially attended St. Andrew's in North Beach. I was blessed with two great kids and had full intention of raising them in the Roman Catholic Church. Unfortunately, my ex-wife, a Methodist, had other plans. You see, she had a great dislike of the Roman Catholic Church and consequently refused to worship with us together there as a family. Her dislike centered on the fact that friends could go to her church and take communion, though she could not do so in the Roman Catholic Church. So I, as both a husband and a father, knew that I was responsible for the spirituality and spiritual well-being of my family, and I had to find a church where we could attend and worship together as a family. So in mid-1987, we began searching for a church that was acceptable to both of us. Let me tell you, there's some pretty strange churches out there. Some of these churches expected members to give everything they had, all they had, and anything they were going to receive in the future to the church. And I mean all. Some expected one to talk in tongues frequently. Some expected you to be slain by the Spirit weekly. And after visiting a few of these, my ex-wife quickly agreed with me to look at churches that were more in line with the Roman Catholic. One suggestion was the Lutheran. Back in 1986 and 87 time frame, and even somewhat today, if you're traveling from Southern Maryland and heading up to Annapolis, typically where we go for our shopping and our other needs. We passed by St. James many, many times, but never really made note of the denomination or gave it much thought. In the meantime, I was still attending St. Andrew's and started receiving pressure from my priest and my family, all devout Roman Catholics, to have my children baptized in the church. At one point, I seriously considered doing so without my ex-wife's knowledge, but decided that was not wise and a bit underhanded. So our search continued. In discussing my dilemma with a fellow parishioner at St. Andrew's, he asked if we had visited the Episcopal Church. I informed him that we had not. He then asked what I enjoyed the most about the Roman Catholic Church. I told him there were many things, though the sacraments were extremely important to me, especially communion. He told me that the Episcopal Church recognized and practiced the same sacraments, and he then went on to inform me that the Episcopal Church was so much like the Roman Catholic that it would be difficult for me to distinguish the difference during the worship services. I remember him saying the Episcopal Church was not a true Protestant church like the others. So here is a fellow Roman Catholic telling me all I could want to know about the Episcopal Church. I took this as a true nudge from God, and after doing a little research of the Episcopal churches in the area, we decided to attend St. James. As soon as I walked through those doors back there, I knew without a doubt that I had entered the house of God. And it felt so right and so very, very welcoming. Father Bill Tickner was the rector, and Eileen House was the associate rector at the time. Not only did I feel truly welcome, but immediately took a liking to both of them. Between the two of them, I was able to see two true servants of our God, and was even able to stay awake for their sermons. Wow. When Eileen gave this sermon, I was able to see such visuals within my mind's eye. Father Bill's sermons really provide direction in areas that I was lacking in, and it always seemed to be what I needed to hear at that time and at that moment. My ex-wife was also very content and even went on to become a lay Eucharist minister and a reader here at St. James. Our children were baptized here and started attending Sunday school. Our finding of a church now being successful, we were able finally to worship together as a family. I formally became a member of the Episcopal Church that same year and made many friends here at St. James and St. Mark's. It wasn't very long after that a group called the Stewardship Committee came to us and asked us to pledge for the upcoming year. Well, I thought, here goes, they're going to be asking for our money. And not only asking, but on top of that, recommending that we consider 10% of our income. Wow! Maybe we had joined the wrong church after all. I could not recall the Roman Catholic Church being so bold to ask us for 10%. Though they did have 2 collections during the service versus our 1. By this time, as previously mentioned, my kids were attending Sunday school. My ex-wife was a Eucharistic lay minister and reader. I was a Sunday school teacher and an usher. The entire family helped out with the fall festival and the spring dinner. This truly was our church, and now they want a pledge from us. Obviously, providing what I could afford in the weekly offerings just must not be enough. Maybe it was time to look for a new church. As I pondered this and prayed for some guidance, I suddenly had a revelation and began to understand, if it's not us supporting the church, then who is it? I remember taking a close look at St. James, and all that within became infatuated with the overall history of our church. The buildings, the people that make up this wonderful church. Never much of a history buff prior to this revelation, but suddenly found myself with a real interest in our church history. When you think about all the people over 300 plus years who had hopes and dreams similar to our very own, coming to this place just as we do, to worship our God, have fellowship with one another, it did and does seem quite amazing to me. They came on foot, they came on horseback, they came in carriages, and some of the very first automobiles. Originally, they did this when we were still under English rule and prior to us being a nation. They came for fellowship, for worship, and to take communion. Eileen House once gave a sermon about communion. How when we kneel at this altar, or any altar for that matter, she referenced this one though, when we kneel at this altar, we are actually kneeling with everyone, including the apostles and the saints and any other one that has done that. Likewise, I again found that pretty amazing. Think about how many over time have taken communion here at St. James and St. Mark's that we are, in fact, in communion with. The uniqueness of our church always impresses me. The beautiful stained glass, the lovely chandeliers, the 2 clear windows, part of the history, there were lookouts. So lookouts could be posted during the service to ensure safety for the parishioners during the service while they're clear. The pews with the doors, so that the dogs that were placed on one's feet when riding here to church in a horse and buggy to keep their feet warm or to keep their dogs in during the service. My revelation truly revealed to me that this was my church, my family's church, and hopefully, with our help, many families to come. And if we did not provide financial support along with our time and talent, there may not be a church. Along with that revelation, I also realized that in reality, all that I am and all that I have comes from God, and it belongs to God. So didn't it make sense to provide for St. James and also all the various ministries designed to be the outreaching hands of our God? However, in my realization that pledging a percentage of my treasures, along with the giving of my time and talents, that pledging of 10% was going to be extremely difficult. So I pledged what I could and have done so ever since. I have increased that pledge each year and also pledged over the years to a couple of capital funding campaigns. The greatest of these was the extension of the parish hall to better accommodate our Christian education facilities. I have to tell you, it's not always been easy. There were times that negative things and events came up in my life and made it easy, in my mind, to justify reallocating those pledge funds to accommodate these things. But I have learned over the years, the more I give to God, to His house, to His ministries, to His people, the greater return I receive, and the closer I feel to God. I give so that my church, our church, continues to exist, continues to grow, continues to reach out to those in need, and in turn helps glorify our God. I have never once regretted any of my giving. In reality, I have always been rewarded in many ways by that giving. I've known people over the years that have left the church because according to them, all the church wants is my money. Yes, the church needs our money, just as it needs our time and our talents. If we don't give of our time and of our talents and of our treasures and support our church and all the associated ministries, who will? I have also encountered people who left St. James commenting that they got nothing out of it. Same thing, Sunday after Sunday. Unfortunately, these same individuals may have been guilty of giving very little or nothing at all. You have got to give to receive. And if you do so faithfully, our God will give back to you 100-fold. I have learned over the years that if you give, you will in fact receive. And if that giving is of God and for God, your return is both immeasurable and eternal.